or their representatives, PTA, the parent coordinators, whoever, with issues, what they had. All right. So we heard back from Kelly at the downtown middle school that they were basically okay, and Tricia was working on something with him. So, and I got an email from Maggie saying they were fine. They're breathing a sigh of relief and not having PS 150 moved in to them. All right. Their concern is only what's happening with 250 Water Street, because they're concerned about their Play Street and about the noise that could be created with construction.
And is the pre-K staying there now then?
Yes. Yes. All right. So they didn't need to come to this meeting. And then, of course, we heard back from Zainab at 289 saying she couldn't attend, but happily the vice president and the president of their PTA, and Patricia is here, is coming. So I'm just giving Tricia another couple of seconds. I know it's a crazy night because transportation is going on, which I wanted to attend as well as the East River
Motion to adjourn.
Esplanade. Yeah, well, so we also want to talk a little bit about getting our, not the overcrowding task force, but the Downtown Educational Council started up by our elected officials. All right, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as soon as my chair gets here. All right, so Happy New Year, everyone. I can't believe we have a quorum. All right, welcome. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if you want to mention the Cornell thing, the Wild Cornell thing.
Yeah, well, why don't you do it, Ramesh?
Oh,
Well, first of all, I
Yeah.
tell you what, let's call the meeting to order, and we always do this. We're going to go around the room. I'm Paul Hovitz, Community Board 1.
Colin Mooney, Committee Board 1.
Daron or Cooley at Community Board 1.
Wendy Chapman, CB1.
Andrew Zelter, CB1.
Annie Morel, CB1.
Kevin Chu, CB1.
Mason Boyce, CB1.
Tammy Meltzer, CB1, and Karen Katz, 276, as well as Baruch.
Peter?
Peter Rankin, Assembly Member, News Office.
Patricia Laria, parent at IS 289.
cool.
Okay.
And I'm Ramesh at Community Board 1. Anthony and Lucian had an announcement. Wild Cornell came to the Community Board today. They were gauging interest on, they had some programs on genetic research, so they want to see if any schools in our area, are interested in having them talk about applied research, things like that. Also,
For what age?
for that particular genetic research, high school, so like
AP.
Bio, things, those
For the
type of
summer or
courses.
during the year?
I don't know that specifically on when.
Okay,
Other than
I'd
that
love
they're,
to know more.
Me too.
for all the grades, they're also interested in like offering STEM classes, I'm guessing some science related
I'm
courses.
going to get some more information. I am part of the advisory committee for the downtown hospital, and we just had our meeting, and I didn't hear, but I understand they came in and spoke with Anthony and Lucian about this offering. So I'll find out more and send it out to you guys via email so we can garner whatever possibilities. The hospital is obviously looking to do support within the community, and this is a nice idea. So, we'll certainly support it. We have a couple of other folks who just walked in. So,
Fiona from our Capitol's office. I will also need to leave a little earlier because there's like an EDC.
I know it's a crazy night.
Today, there's like 4 meetings.
Yeah, well, I know, because I'm actually want to split myself into threes. All right, I want to be triplets. And Mariam? Just in time. Okay.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hello.
Okay, we've done our intros. We
Okay.
mentioned that Weil Cornell came into the office and spoke with Anthony and Lucian about offering lecture support within AP Bio classes on a high school level. So I'm going to look into getting that information
Okay.
from them, and then we'll send it around.
And STEM across all grades.
And STEM across all grades.
Excellent.
So, we are fortunate in having the vice president of the, of 289's PTA, all right? And,
Yes, I'm familiar with those people.
okay, I
so-
would imagine that you are. And I also thought we should talk tonight about asking our elected officials to reinstate a downtown educational council, with them participating in monthly meetings the way we did
With who
before.
participating?
The elected officials,
Okay. All right.
as we did for the overcrowding task force, getting better results in agency participation.
Okay. Wasn't prepared to talk about that. It's
I
not on
know.
the agenda.
Yeah,
So new business, maybe we talk about it and bring it in February?
yes,
Can we do that?
yes.
Okay.
The youth council.
We would like, or I'm suggesting, okay, I don't want to speak for everyone, but we used to have a lot better results in terms of dealing with our agencies. And I know Brian had an opinion the last overcrowding task force meeting when we started to see the drop off of some of the elected officials, in all of them being when Shelley left, and the first meetings that we had with the overcrowding task force and all the elected officials were there, it resulted in the agency showing up in results being garnered, all right? Then as time went on and the overcrowding didn't seem to be an issue, and that last meeting that Brian attended where he said, why don't you just do this in committee? Well, we are doing it in committee, but we're finding that we're not getting the kind of attendance that we need. So maybe our elected officials would agree to institute a new monthly downtown educational council that they would each support. And that is a suggestion that I'm making, but we of course will discuss this here at the committee and get input as to whether that's a good idea or not.
Well, I think that what we heard when we first proposed that idea, which we had proposed before, after they wanted to disband the overcrowding task force, is that it didn't have as much of a mission. So if we're just asking them to meet with us to talk about issues surrounding our schools, then that's something that other community districts don't get, and it became problematic because of that. And so they asked us to bring our issues to them directly as elected officials, which we have done. And we have done really well with certain things. We did really well with the 150 thing. We did really well with some of the grants that Margaret's been able to get some of our schools. We are in the process of really helping to connect some of our schools with those opportunities. But we have not been successful with things like crossing guards. And we have not been successful with things like charter school placement at LMC,
Or SCA
which
contact.
stunningly
Right.
still is going on. And that was one of the things I wanted to bring up tonight, along with, because Nikki had knee surgery, who's the PTA president at LMC, and Kelly can't be here. But that situation is reeling out of control. So what I thought we would do is, if we can maybe talk about putting that on February, you all can just think about, that is the reason it was pushed back on, is because, other community boards don't have that task force for issues similar to ours. But if there is a reason that we can argue that is very specific to our neighborhood, that is unusual and different than other community boards, we could make a an argument for it. But I think it's something maybe we should prepare for and put on the agenda so we're all
right.
prepared to
But
talk about it.
just so you guys know, our downtown hospital delivered 3,300 babies, all residents of this community last year. All right? So Eric Greenleaf continues to tell us that our wait lists are going to swell because there are, I think it was 500, but I'm not sure of the number, apartments that are in progress being built now that have not been taken into consideration by the School Construction Authority, who is another entity, along with the DOE, that we seem to be having trouble to get to attend our meetings. So just keep this, and we can certainly wait until next month and we can further examine, as
that would be
Tricia
a good idea.
suggests. But there are a lot of reasons that we were really successful. And for many years, I'm really not that interested that other boards didn't have it, but we had it with Shelley, and then afterwards for a considerable amount of time, because we are the fastest growing residential community in New York City. And the school seats and the lack of thereof is remarkable. And the overcrowding in our each class, because we're way oversized, is another tremendous issue. And we've got it. So, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Why don't we start with 289? And then I'll do LMC's report after that, so you guys can go.
Patricia Laria.
Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Patricia Larry, I'm co-vice president 289, and
Carrie Coakley, president of 289 PTA.
God bless you.
Thank you for coming.
So talk to us, tell us what is going on over there and some of the things we can give you some support on.
Well, we just won, or were granted, a ResOA grant for $100,000.
Yay.
Yay! Yay! Which is for security cameras for the entire building that we share with elementary school with 89. What we had asked for was $250,000 because that's the actual cost. So we're still
Okay.
submitting for that.
That was from the borough president? Whose resume was it?
it was a ResOA, but I think it came from the DOE, because when I contacted the ResOA, I guess, who is it? The borough president's office, they said that she only awards for technology, not the security cameras. She said she only for technology. So it wasn't
Security
that
cameras aren't technology?
I know.
No, technology is its own
It's
bucket, which is
yeah.
computers, labs, yeah.
Yeah.
So did they give you a reason why they didn't fund it completely?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
So did
But
you,
we have to call around, because we didn't know if we won anything. We weren't notified. We have to keep asking people. Yeah,
so in other words, they never notified you that the grant went through?
no.
It's only because you followed up
Right.
that you finally found out.
And you were told, but who at the DOE told you that you had it?
I think Angie's the one who submitted it,
Vice
our
principal.
vice principal, and she was able to look on some portal online and saw that there was 100,000 on the line, and she was calling around to see, is it for the school? And nobody could give her a clear answer, and so,
But it was earmarked to 289?
yes, yes. But you know we share the building with 89, so it's for the whole building.
But you don't know where she found the information that it went through?
I mean, we can find out. We can
It would just be
find it,
interesting
yeah.
to find out where it was posted and what their reasoning was for not fully funding it. Did Andy submit an estimate, like a bid with it,
Yes.
from the provider?
So what do you do with only 100,000 if you need 250 and it's
Right.
specific to cameras? Do you get just 1/3 of the cameras?
Well, that's what we're looking into now, because we're sure it will require specific wiring, there'll be things that have to be done first, yes.
So if a technology grant is available, perhaps you could do a carve out for the computers that will be needed for the security and apply for a grant for the computer systems and the technology needed to power and back, because you may need an extra server that just runs.
You know, that's probably a
Right.
significant part of that 250.
Exactly, so,
Right,
I mean,
okay.
I would start to take a look at what's available, because you're in a more unique position, because you're not, but you're on leased land, aren't you?
Yes,
You're still under the BPCA.
yes.
But I would also petition the BPCA.
Thank you.
I would reach out to the BPCA and see if they can, even if it's 10 grand. I mean, you're just trying to chip off at that 250 number.
Exactly.
Well, and-
Yeah, and you have a lot of kids in that are,
and
your,
It services 800 kids, pre-K to 8, and there's 100 staff members.
Well, I was gonna say that the other thing is, this was a long time ago, because my kids haven't been in 150 in a very long time, but, you know, the Reso-8 grant that got for redoing the music room there, which was wiring, it was a whole bunch of different technology, it actually took several years
Right.
to implement, even though the money came in, because the providers that, the parents who volunteered to actually put the whole bid and proposal together,
Sure.
and the materials that they wanted to use and the technology they wanted to use, of course, wasn't standard operating procedures for the school construction authority. So you're going to need to find out from school construction authority, you know, we got ourselves in trouble a couple of times when we just hired a vendor to come in and put, you know, automatic washing your hands things in the
Right, right.
sink, and we didn't use the PTA just did it, and then we got in trouble for it, and we're like, really, we're gonna have to rip this out, you know, because
Sure.
we used the wrong, you know.
Yeah, we're definitely working
Yeah.
So-
with the school, we're working with the vice principal, so.
So this goes back to school construction authority. How much leeway do they have in this? How much are they going to be contracting this out with their electricians or whoever puts it in?
Well, do they actually, I would think that they do have to mount the system. Is that not correct?
I would think so.
I will tell you, it is not logical. So, ask every question
Mhm.
and then some.
Along the way. Okay.
Because what you think is gonna happen and what actually happens, and we were fortunate because we had parents who were architects who were also
Experience.
experienced, but not with the school construction authority. You see what I'm saying?
I see.
So, it was, I mean, it's not the same as apples and oranges, but it's just one of those things that you need to track down, not only who provided the money, but, you know,
Exactly.
how can it be spent? You know, what is
and make
the-
sure you have the money.
Yeah, I was just gonna say also that, do you have a time constraint in terms of when you need to spend the money?
I believe the money is to come up within a year or?
Yeah, it's
sooner
for
than
fiscal
that?
year 19. The money was
Okay.
awarded for this year. So I think
And
we
your
have to
vice
spend it
principal
within this
probably
year.
does know
Yeah.
a lot about how this works.
I mean, so the other end, at the end, if you get not one extra penny, but you have a timeline, as May said, my high recommendation is to go back to whoever gave you that $250,000 estimate and say,
What can you do?
I got $100,000 this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
What, not, let's just lay the wiring and let it live, but what sections can we cover
Mhm.
with this,
Sure.
right? And then, I mean,
There's a part 2 to this.
There's a part, there's a part 2 and 3.
Okay, go
Go
ahead.
on.
Regarding the security camera, you were asking like, what could they cover? Well, the priority for the principals, both schools, is they want a VCS system. It's like a system where you come in, it takes a photograph of you.
Visitor control system. So
Yeah.
there's a specific CAS system that is ideal for the school and that I believe is used by other schools.
And they want to
in the city.
implement it this year, hopefully using that $100,000. So that's a question that we need to ask about. And I think they estimated at $35,000 for that system.
Yeah.
So that's part 2 of that.
Okay, so
security
we got
system.
65,000 left.
Right.
Have you
Okay.
guys looked into the federal grants for this program?
I don't know.
I thought it had expired, but I don't think it has, but it's a school violence prevention program through DOJ. We passed it back when I was in Congress in the 90s, and it's still around apparently.
and I wonder if you are sitting on state land. Is there a state grant? Right?
So school
Yeah,
violence
Battery Park
prevention
Authority,
program,
yeah.
DOJ,
And DOJ.
yeah,
You've
SBPP.
got your fabulous senators in the room, might be, reps who can probably help you with this.
Well, I mean, you are in a unique position because of what happened there. So
Right.
I think this is a great idea that Colin just put forward. That could be a way of, filling in those gaps. But also, if you guys could just as you move through it and look to find out the origins of this, where it was supposed to get us a little more information, just copy me on the emails. Us
Yeah.
in the emails, so we can make sure to start that trail of communication, and then we can jump in and support you where we can.
Wherever you need
And
it,
then the
right.
question for both of the offices, for Deborah's and Brian's, are there safety and security grants
Well,
for
Yulene,
state?
also, Peter's here for Yulene
Wait,
as well.
it's not Yulene's district,
Oh, it's not?
it's
Oh.
Deborah's.
It's
Oh, okay.
Deborah's.
Okay.
Sorry, but toss me
All right.
right under the bus.
Hold a good thought anyway.
But yeah, if you guys could
Yeah.
work with 89 and 289 to figure that out, there has to
I
be
just sent
something.
I sent to you.
Fantastic, thank you.
And I'm sorry, there's a part 3.
Yeah, go for it. Well, this is the third most wanted needed thing. Just to redo the gym floor entirely. I wasn't at the school for Hurricane Sandy, but somehow, even though it's on the second floor, that gym floor was severely damaged and it's been patched and repaired, but it's still uneven. And it's a safety hazard. So, we haven't applied for anything yet. We need to get the estimate and see what it's gonna be.
What is
That's
the school
gonna be-
construction
About
of the,
300, I got the estimate last year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
what does the custodian say about, or the Department of Education with the safety hazard like that?
It's gonna be
That
hard.
it's really hard because you're on leased land. Any of the schools that are not in a New York City owned building or New York City owned land, like anything
Right.
that's a lease, is an issue. Baruch has the same problem, 276 has the same problem.
Then I would get in touch with
Why
the
would,
state education.
why would that be a problem just in fixing a gym floor?
Because it's a capital investment in the building, and they're not willing to do a capital investment in an asset they don't own.
So Millennium
Yeah, but they
was
have a
a,
long-term lease. like many.
Millennium was able to get a capital improvement
From the borough
via,
president.
with Gale.
Yeah.
So I think that if the SCA can't do a capital improvement grant for you for that gym, then what I would suggest is to reach out to Gail, copy us on the email, and just say, we would like your help with a situation that is falling outside of the parameters for traditional capital improvement grants. And we understood what an amazing thing you were able to do for Millennium. And she got them money to basically convert their library, which wasn't being used. It wasn't the layout wasn't quite right, and the book storage, it would have either had to have been teared down and made again, but the principal and the PTA agreed that they needed the space more for classrooms and counseling rooms. So Gail was able to get them a lot of money so they could convert that space. They're just about to begin construction.
They built the wall.
So
That's awesome.
that would be what I would recommend you'd go after for that. And then if you aren't successful, then we should revisit it in the fall when you could have an opportunity to then get in to try to get a piece of the capital improvement plan money, which is harder to get, but it's still possible.
Are you using the gym as
Good to
is?
know.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to.
Yes.
Have you had any accidents, incidents?
That I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not
Because
even-
you're saying it's not safe.
Yeah, it's buckled in certain areas, but, I guess they are careful with the kids, tell them not to run in that area probably.
Well, Gail will come and do a site visit, and, it might behoove us to, when that time comes, to see if we can get someone from the SCA there, because I'm not looking at it, I can't see how severe it is. So yes, if it breaches like code, then the SCA has to fix it.
That's what
Okay,
I'm
so,
saying.
well, I know, but it's pretty, you'd be surprised how bad it has to be. Yeah,
You never know, but you just.
so
All right, well,
it could just be worth a site visit, and you can always request a site visit by the SCA. They have to come.
are you able to take a couple of pictures and send it to us? I'm just curious what it looks like. All right, you have my email on my card.
Yeah, I'll give it to Gary.
You got it? Yeah.
But I'm sorry, just to clarify, the three pieces were, I wasn't sure I followed, 250 for a broad-based security system for the building, 35,000 for a visitor control system.
It's actually 150 still needed for the camera system. For the
Yeah, we
first
were
half.
awarded 100, so we're short 150.
I was just starting with what you needed,
Okay.
and then, so you, 250 for the broad-based security, 35 for the VCS. Was that a subset of the 250 or in addition to 250?
It's an additional. It's a-
Okay,
it's
so
a
that's
totally separate
285, and then.
And the
roughly
floor.
300 grand for the floor. So that's what, 585, and you've been awarded 100K that can be applied toward,
The cameras, the security.
not the VCS.
We're not, I doubt it, but we can
Okay.
have to look into it and see.
Because that's a computer thing.
Unless the VCS can be incorporated.
All right, Fiona, you have your work cut out. Mary Ann, have your work cut out. Okay.
So those are some routes, and, you know, Senator Kavanaugh can also help with this. But those are some logical first steps that we'd recommend. And then just keep us on the correspondence. It's much easier than asking you guys for these huge recaps, you know, and so, and if you have to blind copy, that's fine. But it just helps us keep up on what's going on. Because I didn't even know until today, I'm looking at Andy's email, that in addition to the Reso A, that your original request for Chambers Street Guard was dismissed. I'm really surprised at that.
Oh, yeah.
Why did they dismiss that?
Because they said that you needed to have someone at the school entrance. So instead of saying you need an additional crossing guard, they just said, sorry, you can't have one over there because we'll have to move the one that's required. Is that correct, by the entrance? Isn't that what the email says?
No.
Currently on Warren Street, because the school entrance is on Warren.
Yes, but the exit's on Chambers.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's where,
What they did all last year was have safety agents, you know, escorting the kids across.
so what kind of coverage do you have right now?
From what I saw when I gone to school,
Yeah.
it's just the crossing guard on Warren Street.
Okay.
And I haven't seen the safety agents on Chambers when I've driven by, or,
I saw one today, who was right in the middle, but not really moving, so I don't know how, and that was after school hours, so I wasn't.
Mary Ann, can you look into this?
Sure, I can.
All right?
Yep.
I mean, I heard that, you know, we're still in need of crossing guards, but the safety agents is one thing that the community was trying to implement in the midst of not having crossing guards. And so we've been following up with them.
I thought that the email was from Stacy, from, right? Stacy?
Sasha.
Sasha, rather. Sasha, right.
I'm sorry, should I?
No.
And we've been reaching out to them, asking them for additional crossing guards, and they just keep telling us it's a lack of people applying for crossing guards, so we have been trying, but we'll just like speed up the effort as well. But
Yeah,
that's
that
why
seems to be the,
Well, I mean, they just need to cover it then. You know, I understand they have this issue with trying to find people, but until we can, and one thing that I've been doing is trying to get information from the mayor's office who this new superintendent is that he apparently hired to oversee crossing guards. Nobody seems to know who this person is. It was part of his Vision Zero thing. So he
That's
said
why you
he
can't
was
see
hiring the superintendent to oversee crossing guards. He was giving them a raise. He was giving a percentage of them benefits and making them full-time positions. I asked for some backup data, and I have not received it. I could really use your help with that.
right. They should be sending a traffic agent, if nothing else.
that's why that was supposed to be there, so it's strange that.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing when we can't get a regular crossing guard, is the first precinct has been providing traffic agents.
I think that they're also, Zainab told me that she received information that at Chambers Street, they want them taking the bridge. So my question for you would be, do you have an issue with Chambers Street itself getting to the bridge? Do you know what I mean? Or is the issue West Street? I wasn't clear from Andy's email which post they're looking for at Chambers.
Well, and you know that Chambers Street Bridge is covered up right now because they're redoing the bridge.
Oh, you can't use the bridge right now? All right, so that's,
There you go.
so that would be enough reason to have an emergency NYPD person there, Miriam. So if we can get that to happen, let's do it under the auspices of the bridge being out of commission. But I would love to know from you guys, which is the post at Chambers Street, or is it both?
It's really both, because it's all about the cars turning.
Right.
And gonna happen either crossing West Street or crossing
Have
Chambers.
you lost the support from the Allied team in the afternoons? Is there nobody there in the mornings?
I honestly don't know because I'm an
My
eighth
kids
grade
go to
parent
school.
and
Yeah.
Well-
showing up as they're leaving.
You know what? Do me a favor,
Yeah,
ask your kid.
go see, yeah.
Ask a kid, because that's someplace that I can,
I guarantee you
Yeah.
that the kids that are crossing to
That'd be
go
great.
south are not taking the bridge.
I'm going to see Malala last week.
Oh, good.
Younger ones certainly aren't.
Have
Like,
fun.
the
Bye.
fifth graders
Thank
get
you.
intimidated by the high school students.
Yeah.
Well, I asked my daughter last year, and when they exited Chambers Street, she said nobody takes the bridge. My feeling is that you have to look at where they're crossing and make sure it's covered. But I want to also respect Zainab's wishes as the principal in terms of what message she's delivering to the student body. It can be tricky for us advocating sometimes for something if it goes against what they want to do. So if you guys would just loop in with her and let me know. And then Miriam, just keep us all on that same crossing guard email. Do you have Miriam's information? Because if you don't, you should, because she and Deborah have been working on this.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to find out who, the precinct has been sort of a revolving door of contacts lately. But I'll find out.
They did answer some safety issues on North End. They put in a stop, like a red.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's improved the quality on that end,
Good,
so
good.
I'm not sure who did that.
All right, is
All
there
right.
a number 4?
There is a number 4. This is way down the line. Thank you very much. This is way down the line. This is the principal's dream. It's the 5th floor bathroom redo. It's not applied for yet. She wants a beautiful gender neutral setup. That's the vision of the bathroom.
So it's a bathroom renovation
Renovation.
and to make it gender neutral. Is there something other than the fact that it's not gender neutral? Does it need repairs?
It does need repairs.
Okay. And repairs. What gender is it now?
We have one adult single bathroom.
Okay.
And then a girl's bathroom and a boy's bathroom.
So which one are you looking to convert?
I think she was looking to kind of make it all
Gender neutral.
gender neutral.
Oh, just combine them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Combining 3 existing.
Well, that's her.
You may need to still have adult and then student, but
Right.
as far as students.
I think there's a law about that. So it might be combining the 2.
And if there isn't, there should be.
Okay, combining the 2
So that's
existing.
way down on the list, the
Yeah,
security
that's the
camera.
dream.
All right, all right.
No, but that's good to know. So,
It comes up.
that could be a Margaret Chin thing. So, she was the one who got those bathrooms, all the doors and dripping faucets fixed. I don't know if that was before your time. Was that? So I think, divide and conquer is my,
What grade are your children in?
My youngest is in eighth grade, so it's my last year.
Same here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
Okay. We'll be sorry to lose you. Thank,
I'm just recruiting more or less men.
all right, all right. Well, make
Yeah,
sure
I'm
they
sure
come
that's-
to see us.
Thank you guys very much.
No, thank you for coming.
and
Okay.
I'll keep us posted on everything. And I'll be working on behind the scenes. All right. Any other schools here? No? Okay. So LMC, we know what the issues
Oh,
are.
I should just, I'm sorry. I got a response from Maggie Sienna from Pexlip School saying they were fine and they would get back to us. Their only real concern at the moment is what's going on with the 250 Water Street construction, because whatever ends up getting built there will impact the school with construction noise, and in addition, they're concerned about maintaining the Play Street that we worked so hard to get for them. So that was the only other, and Kelly got back to you, right?
Yes. So they have several things that will be coming up that he didn't want to talk about just yet, but the one really huge thing is this charter school. The elevators are breaking down every day with all of these schools trying to use these old elevators. Bye, guys. So I have pulled in support because I have 30 emails and I have the head of every school safety division that there is at the DOE and at the NYPD, and nobody is doing anything. And they're all in this email making excuses, to be honest. So I have asked for, I shared this with Anthony, and I have shared it with the elected officials, and I'm looking for some assistance. It has to, they said mid-year at the very latest, they'd have the freight elevator rehabilitated to be able to send the charter kids up in it. And not only isn't it ready, it's not even close to ready. And these charter school kids are lining up outside in the dead of winter because they can't be in the lobby, it's not big enough. And the elevators are breaking down so often that Kelly actually has a key to the Broadway lobby elevators, and he is manually coming down and taking bunches of children into the 26th Broadway lobby and manually operating and overriding the elevators so that they can take it to the 6th floor, which is completely illegal. So I think that this is an emergency. And, the mixing of the students into the office building is a problem. I mean, the whole thing is a disaster. But they don't seem to think it's as urgent as it is. And so I'm trying to do what I can there.
Tricia?
Yeah.
And I have no idea if this is helpful, if it's detrimental, but just throwing it out. Would there be any value to having sort of a news crew come out in the morning and filming what's going on and someone doing something that is illegal, which again, that could be detrimental if it disrupts what is currently working for them.
Right.
Even if it's makeshift, but is that?
Yeah, I mean, if I could get someone interested in this story, I have, I talked to Matthew. He's interested in it. He just had a couple he needed to get done. So it is on his radar, and he was going to pick it up with me. But he's not TV. I mean, I could, they got upset with me because I actually sent video. I went myself several times, and I sent the director, the DOE, the deputy chancellor. She said I'm not allowed to be photographing students, which is true. But there are ways of blurring them, and I had thought to move to that option and provide video to one of our news outlets, and that was already retouched because it is a problem, and it is all about the students and how they're moving through those spaces. And I have great footage of them stuck in elevators screaming. I have, them lining up outside in the rain. I have a demolition truck next to them coughing out dust. I mean, honestly, I already reported this to them, and I sent the video to the head of school safety, and nobody did
We
anything.
have to get New York one then.
I'm really, so, it's a possibility, but that is my constraint, is the fact that we're not supposed to be photographing them. So I have to really just think it over, yeah.
What's the ultimate goal with that? To have them move, to have them
Yeah.
shut it down? To have
We passed a resolution, no charter schools in Lower Manhattan. We don't want them here, we don't need them here, our kids don't go to them. And that's just it, they don't. We've
I understand
never,
that, but
ever,
what's the goal with this particular charter school?
the goal with it now that it's there is to have them enter through a different place, because the 81 New Street entrance is smaller than this room. It is probably here over, and that includes the 3 elevator bays, and where Andrew is sitting is where the security desk is, and here's the front door. So the kids come in, they're tall, the security guy's sitting, he can't see through the masses of kids coming in who's who, and they're going up the elevator before he can really suss them out, which is already an issue we've raised with Jay Finling, who handles like the potential terror problems. He handles that part of school safety. So that was already being handled. And then they had an additional school. The DOE decided it would be okay to have them enter there. And so they can't physically fit. And so they've staggered the start time of the school, and they have the kids lining up in the alley. And obviously that's going to be a problem.
So the ideal scenario is to have them move to another location.
Yes.
Well, another location would be better for everyone, but at the very least, enter through another location. But the fact, there's just so many issues here. The fact that they don't have to do any community outreach with charter placements is a problem. We're not against charter schools, we just don't need them here. Our kids are not going to them, and we desperately need more space for our expanding schools that the kids do go to. And we have no space. So, Kelly McGuire, one of the things that, is the press here? No. One of the things he
I hate to ask
was,
that question more often.
Which is another.
well, he is looking to potentially expand the school. He's not quite ready to put out his full plan. But this is something that 26 Broadway was marketed to us as an educational complex for Lower Manhattan. And guess what? They've relocated a 1,500-seat high school from the Upper East Side that our students don't go to. Now they've placed, and then the Urban Assembly, which is fine, the trade school, and then now they're putting in the charter school. The only school we have in there is LMC. And they denied Millennium expansion into that building because of Richard Green coming from the Upper East Side. So they have directly contradicted themselves on exactly what they said they were going to do, and they have to be held to it, in my view. And so, yes, a long answer to your short question, it would be better if we could relocate them for next fall. I know that's disruptive for them too. So at the very least, it would not be a problem if they entered at another location. The particular space they occupy is not big enough for Millennium. And there's no other school that size that's vying for that space. So personally, again, this isn't a committee statement. Personally, I'm not against it being there, but we do have to find another place.
How many kids are in the charter?
It's like 350.
And have we identified an alternate point of entry for?
Yeah, they could come in, they could reconfigure the freight entrance for 26 Broadway and make that, they don't need freight. It's all office space now. So I lied. They probably need freight on certain occasions for moves and things like that. But seeing that the students need the elevators at specific times of the day, I think that could be easily coordinated.
How about less luxury shops on Governor's Island and more schools?
Great idea.
Cross-committee work.
Yeah, no, the tourists definitely take priority in this neighborhood.
What's the age of the charter?
It's a middle school.
It's a middle school?
Yeah, and it's a school for the arts. I mean, their mission's lovely. They have great support. Again, I don't want it to come across the wrong way. I think I think they were as surprised as we were. I think they have it worse, given that they really got the shaft in terms of how they have to enter this school. She used to stand out there in the freezing rain for 40 minutes as those children gather, and they're not from the neighborhood. So they come at all staggered times.
Maybe the story is sort of less about, this charter school in particular, but it's more about, like you said, the four schools and sort of how it was marketed to the neighborhood. Because I think with sort of that background, it's a more compelling case.
Yeah, it's definitely a more compelling case.
And then you all know that I'm actually pro charter schools, but I know my charter school connections hate these guys. And they're angry at these guys.
That's interesting.
So, they're giving them a bad name. So
Yeah.
it's there's
You mean the DOE?
No,
Which of the
No,
guys
this
that-
particular charter school.
yeah.
But I mean, your charter school would never just accept a space like this without doing the outreach. See, this is the thing, charter schools really do have their own,
Those guys.
right, they have their own board of directors, but what happens is, if you don't have charter schools that do the right thing, and there are many that do, look at Great Oaks, they came to us, and we spent a lot of time going over things with them, and they realized it wasn't the space they wanted to be in after we talked to them, and they found another space. But this particular charter school did not do that, and unfortunately, because of the law, they don't have to reach out to the community. Like, if this was a New York City public school, they must come before, they must have hearings for such a
The
thing.
state super.
I don't know how the state was able to dodge that bullet, but it has been to the detriment of so many children and so many communities. And so, yes, I'm against this placement. I'm definitely not against charter schools.
What area does
So-
this, I don't want, this is a short and easy
Yeah.
question, but my final question, what geographic area does this school serve?
It's
Chinatown, Uptown?
No, it's like all over. It's a
Okay.
school of the arts, so it's a magnet for kids who want to be in the arts.
Yeah, it's like Beacon type,
Yeah, so that, and I think that's one of the biggest problems in a way, is that they are not coming from the neighborhood because they then, their arrival time is so staggered that that poor person has to be out there for 40 minutes as the kids start to gather, and then they're all standing there in the freezing rain and cold.
And then the sweltering heat.
It's really unbelievable that this went through. I'm still trying to digest it, but anyway, I am working as hard as I can on it, and I hope to have some news for everybody
We
soon.
should try to get New York One on it. I think I.
Yeah, I think Andrew's got a good point there. If I could figure out a way, I really did get a pretty big hand slap on that one, so I just have to figure out a way. You know, we did cover the kids for the Happy Story at PS 150. That made, 5 o'clock news.
Right.
And nobody seemed to mind that.
Yeah, I think they're picking their fight.
I think they are. I think it's that if we're going to say they're being abused, they don't want to see the faces, So, though, I'm going to look into that more, Andrew.
Just more,
They're probably not allowed to take their faces without.
yeah, they're minors.
Yeah, they're minors.
They might have signed a release at PS 150. I don't know if he did
That
that.
wouldn't cover this. I mean, that would be school
That's
events,
marketing.
right?
for
That
Tom.
Well, that was an event. The PS 150 was an event. It was a rally, and they might have done something in the school where they signed off to be filmed.
And
I
by
can
the way,
find out.
I'm not advocating that a news crew come in and start filming minors, and I would imagine news crews have experience.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, the news crews can film minors, but
Yeah.
you can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what, I agree. I'm not suggesting using your video. I'm suggesting, and I have someone I can call.
Well, I'm not sure that Channel 5 can walk in there into that lobby and start filming either. I don't
I
think.
don't have anything to do with Fox News.
No, it's media's for use. You can go in there and film a 5-year-old. You don't need to sign a release.
Is that right? So they can walk in that lobby?
Yes. Well, I mean, with permission from the school, they can walk into that lobby. They can't just barge in, but they
Right.
can film a minor without a release. It's the media. I forgot what the actual law is called, but free use, I think, free and fair use, I think it's called.
Well, but they can, and even if they can't, they can blur the faces, like they'll have the technology to be able to
Yeah.
do that, so I don't think they'll have.
They do have the technology to do that, you're right.
So on the, with their own, I don't know if they can do that with your video, with their own, I'm sure they can.
Right.
And they do it all the time.
Okay, you know what?
I might suggest, so again, I think there's a cautionary note here. Part of the story is that the principal is shuttling kids up illegally in an elevator. If he's told he has to stop that and he has no other way of getting those kids up, that might not be.
Well, Andrew, it's a little like the bad gym floor. If we make an issue, then where are your kids going to play until that floor is fixed? So, I mean, it's...
Can I make a suggestion before we start calling the media? This is kind of my world. You can go down a real bad road awfully fast. There's going to be donors to the school. There's going to be private investors into the school. If you really want to get them to make change, you want to hit them where it hurts, and that's where it hurts, is their investors.
For a charter school.
Yes. So I would maybe play behind the scenes, and I'm happy to help.
Well, the thing is, I think they're helpless at this point. They have to wait for the city to find a location for them.
Right.
I would almost bet you by this time, Colin, that they are begging them to move them.
Maybe.
I mean, it's intolerable what they're going through. They definitely have the worst, the short end of it.
Have you had a conversation with the principal?
I haven't talked to the principal. They have not been so interested in speaking with us. I think it's because they think we're in such great support of LMC, fairly, and I think they feel too vulnerable. But Kelly has spoken to them, and he said they're very nice, and that they're having as hard of time with this as he is. In fact, he thinks they're having much harder. And he thinks it might resolve itself as a result. But I think we need to move this along. I'm very concerned someone's going to get hurt, because what happens is when they had a tour, their middle school tour, the day of, all 3 elevators went out. If you can imagine, there's 1,000 people coming in. And so everybody had to go up this narrow stairwell that wanted to see the school, 6 flights and 7 flights. And that to me is really scary. If anything would have happened, it could have just been a total disaster.
What do they do in case of a fire?
Fire.
Is the stairwell not to code too?
I would think it would be not to code. It was not built as a school. It's a very old building. To me, it's a narrow, scary stairwell that I did not spend time in for that reason. I was anxious in there. So I know it's standard, I want to say 36, but it's definitely, you know how school stairwells are a lot wider? This is not one of those. This is a regular evacuation route out of a building, an old building, exactly
Is
as
it
you'd
lit?
imagine. It's lit exactly as you think it would be in a really old building.
See, I think that you can do
You know.
this story without even going into like the elevator override. Like, I don't think you need it, and if it's gonna cause a problem for them in terms of like now they can't do it anymore, I would stay away from it. I just don't think you need it.
I think a broken down elevator morning, I'm thinking about this as we're talking, because Nikki and I were in touch, and she'd say, that she was the one that wrote me and said, all 3 elevators are down, the tour has started. You know, I should have, at that moment, just called the news and just created a crisis. I guess in some ways I was concerned that I might make matters worse, you know? But I think it could be beneficial to think about doing this. So I will do it.
All right, let's talk. We'll talk about it.
So I'll put that on my to-do list. Let's see, what else did I have to report back? Oh, Millennium, there's some movement on the 14th floor. So it looks like no one is opposed, theoretically, logistically, to the expansion. Now it has come down to money. So that's actually a huge hurdle crossed, because the hurdle that said in terms of capital plan changes like this one, if it's in the capital plan rules that if you expand the space, you have to expand capacity. And the principal did not want to expand capacity. He's at 133%. So he wants the extra floor to strictly have classrooms and then an open recreation space, because they have no gym, without adding any students. And they have, it sounds like, I haven't seen it written, but it sounds like they've accepted that. So that's a really big hurdle. So
The
now,
SCA or the DOE?
the DOE. So we are now waiting to hear back about the funding piece. And there was no capital funds for any high schools in Manhattan in the capital plan, which is kind of shocking.
How much did they need for this? Do they have an estimate?
No, the SCA has to create the estimate. They know how much it's going to be. So they've not shared that with us, but it's their job to fund it. So now they're going about the business of trying to figure out the funding. And I'm about just to write a letter to say, please do this expeditiously. We've lost leases like this for sleeping on the job before, and it is an office building, and they're anxious to rent it. So we're hoping this all comes together in the next couple months. So I hope to have something great to say in February on that. But that was hopeful news, and the principal's in constant touch with the deputy chancellor. So it's moving.
Again, this may be a bit out of the box, but we heard that the hospital's interested in working with schools to structure STEM programs and AP. Is there any consideration of possibly coordinating that expansion with some of their programs and see if there's a funding option available for any of that?
From the hospital?
Potentially, or other resources that the hospital may be able to connect to the school.
I can ask.
That's interested being to give them the money?
Or a indirect source of others who might support STEM curriculum and
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
that's interesting.
I don't know, I have no idea if there's any.
Well, if we hit a wall, everybody's ideas are great, so, donor.
I can talk to the CEO of the hospital about that.
Okay, so that's an interesting idea,
I
Millennium.
don't know if private money can be used for this expansion.
I'm not sure I can either, but we'll
I
find
don't know,
out.
but I can pick his brain. He's a friend, so
You know,
we're working.
Big pharma and biotech and whatever else is out
Well,
there.
considering that
If
they
it's in the
reached
form of a
out.
grant, if they have some sort of foundation leg,
Yeah.
this is what I was gonna ask Ramesh to look into. When it comes to hospitals making donations like that, they can do it if they create some sort of, there's a
Friends
number.
of.
There's a number, yeah, that it's tax-wise.
501c3?
It's not quite that, because that's a nonprofit. It's like a foundation structure. And they can then separate themselves from their daily operations in a way that they can donate for specific educational initiatives. So we'll look into that. And then we are meeting with the DOT on Thursday about
3 o'clock.
Millennium's crosswalk. So that was kind of a coup getting that meeting, so I'm excited. And hopefully, we're gonna hear something great from them. They said that we're expecting an answer. So I hope it's good news. I may actually,
Expecting an answer, or you expecting a solution?
I'm expecting them to say yes to the crosswalk. But we could be hearing no to the crosswalk. And,
When you say the crosswalk, remind me what that configuration would be.
so straight out of the front door of Millennium, which is in the middle of the curve, we're
Across
asking
to
for the
Stone Street.
crosswalk, to this way, to Stone Street Plaza.
With stop signs or sort of as a pedestrian
A
entry?
flashing crosswalk, which has a stop sign built into it. Yeah, and my concern is that Ed Pinkar was still in the mode of entertaining, oh, but if we do this at the corner, and we put a sign here, and we do education at the school, he was still in that mode, and I just actually heard from Colin Called and said that, Principal McAvoy rather, and said that they had taken the educational session that the NYPD offered that the DOT has been pushing on them, and it turns out that it was a workshop that was unrelated to their specific situation. It was more how students should talk to other students if one student dares another student to run into the street, which was really disappointing. So a lot of the students reported that they felt it was a waste of time. They didn't understand it. The word bizarre was used. So
Yeah,
I
but-
think that it was not a success. I'm happy to report that back to them when
And
I
it-
see them, but
Yeah.
I think we've fleshed out all of the things that they've suggested, in
When
other words.
I was at the school and spoke with Colin and asked him, and the two PTA presidents happened to be there at the same time, and I said, do you do safety instruction within your own curriculum already? Have you covered this, that the Department of Ed is saying that you should add? And he said, we've been doing it since we opened, and that they have an emphasis on it. So it's already, the education piece is already being done within their own curriculum.
Yeah.
Again, I think clearly what you proposed makes the most sense, but if they come to the table on Thursday and are not supportive of that, is there some kind of a compromise that does consider directing traffic to areas where there are safer crosswalks, which might mean, in Manhattan and even on Chambers Street and West, they sort of create corners where you can't cross?
They did mention that they could close the street for that half hour. I think
I'm
that,
not thinking so much.
No, I know
closing
what
the street.
you-
I'm
yeah.
thinking so when you come
You
right out of
create a
school,
barrier.
It's not an open space where you can dart into the street. It's cordored
Yeah.
off, so it redirects you to. And again, I'm not saying that's the best alternative.
Problem is, though, Andrew, that if you make it for just the area, the kids will still
So-
walk around it and won't necessarily go to the corner.
the
to
problem
cross.
is it's the corner. The problem is that they have 20 minutes because they have to come down 11 flights. The elevators are slow, they're old, and there aren't enough of them. So my daughter tells me by the time she gets downstairs, it's 10 minutes after she's left her classroom. They have like 20 minutes left for lunch. So what'll happen, in my guess, is if we try to create a barrier like that, I think those are super effective if you're trying to move them 8 feet that way or 8 feet that way, but we're talking 55, 60 feet for it to make any difference. And I don't think,
They'll just go around.
and plus the fact, they're in a business district, and one of the reasons we have this issue is because of all the delivery trucks that are there delivering to the other storefronts, and so we couldn't go all the way down the block because of that in and of itself. So really, we could only take that no standing, no parking zone, which would actually make it worse. because you'd be pushing the kids then in between the trucks. So I'm afraid that this spot really it's an unfriendly spot. It's, the friendly thing about it is Stone Street. That's the kids' only open space to do anything, and it's become their thing. And there are places to eat there, and there are places to sit and eat their lunch there. But I think it would be too much to ask them to go all the way back to the corner, across the street. Plus, you know what I think else would be problematic with that, which I haven't thought of until this very moment, that I could be prepared with, is the fact that there is so much foot traffic on Broad and Beaver for the business district, that to then file 700 students across that intersection as well is actually counterproductive, and could create issues.
And the kids aren't the only ones crossing right there either.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
We're creating basically a huge foot traffic jam. So they should be motivated to do this crosswalk. And there is an example of a mid-block crosswalk 3 blocks away. So it's not that there isn't one already there. And so that's my hope. I was kind of surprised they talked about closing the street for midday and after school. We'll see what they come back with. But again, I think they know that there's a problem. So I'm hopeful that they'll do something about it.
Get another play street.
Yeah, high school play street. And that's all I've got. So does anybody have any new business or anything they want to talk about?
All right, well,
No?
Happy New Year all. And
Thank you. Thanks for great
about-
suggestions, everybody.
Yeah, and next month we'll cover that other issue about whether we should seek to get our elected officials to agree. We would need certainly to have our issues clear. You know, we don't just want to bring people in or ask them to come in just to shoot the breeze. So things that we are having difficulty in getting done here would be the idea. So think about that, okay?
Just a quick question, when is the deadline for reapplying as a CB1 member if your 2-year term? Is it February, or is it this month?
I could double check on that. I don't have.
Yeah, you can do it right online, Andrew.
I know, I
Yeah.
just,
Are you considering not applying?
no, I want to make sure I don't miss the deadline.
And I want to make sure you do. Okay.
I saw an email on it, I didn't read it all that closely.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the date was.
I want to say it's January 31st.
I think you're right. I think it's January 31st, I think you're right.
It might be helpful to send a reminder out to everybody
Yeah.
from our office.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
have the office. I'll send that up.
So Andrew keeps emailing me, I'm not sure if you guys are getting his emails, but I am.
Andrew,
From the Borough Business.
Yeah, I haven't gotten emails from him in a while.
Yeah. 'cause
Are you sure you guys are up for?
I am, that's the one I got that I
Oh,
read
okay.
briefly from Andrew.
Yeah, I got it and I did it that same,
The seat I replaced was 1 year,
Yeah.
it was halfway through, I guess, right?
yeah.
So you guys can get rid of me now if you want.
Get
No,
it-
we definitely don't want.
No, we
Please
don't.
don't miss the deadline, gentlemen.
Yes,
We need
please,
you.
please.
All right.
So when I was